Are you tired of these liberal judges overstepping their authority by blocking federal initiatives by our commander-in-chief? I've been around a long time and have never seen such blatant and widespread abuse of the judicial system. It seems like every time the federal government tries to do something you voted for, a single judge somewhere in America suddenly appears to stop it. These aren't just any judges. They are often activists in black robes using their lifetime appointments not to interpret the law, but to impose their own political agenda on 330 million people. This is an egregious abuse of power and a gross manipulation of the very system designed to assure justice and fairness in our country. The founders created a system of checks and balances, not a system where one unelected official in a courtroom in Hawaii or California can veto the will of the entire nation. It's happening right in front of us and playing out on a national stage. Never has this tactic been so glaringly obvious as during the Trump administration, and yet liberals revere this perversion of justice as some sort of victory over the duly elected president that they have been brainwashed to hate. Major policies, especially those related to securing our borders and enforcing immigration laws, are being systematically targeted. President Trump is constantly fighting to do the job that the American people elected him to do. This obstruction isn't by Congress, the body meant to legislate, but by individual district judges who seem to have a personal vendetta against this administration. These judges are not acting as neutral arbiters of the Constitution. They are playing politics from the bench, using their immense power to advance a specific partisan worldview that they couldn't win at the ballot box. Think about what that means for our democracy. It means your doesn't matters, and in my opinion, it's been decades since our vote did matter, and that was one of the most difficult things to defeat. The control of our poll results through computers, mail-in votes, and voter rolls with thousands of dead or ineligible voters. If a president can be blocked at every turn by an unaccountable judiciary, then who is really in charge? It's certainly not the people. It's a small group of lawyers with lifetime jobs who have decided they know better than you. They dress up their political decisions in legal jargon, talking about standing and irreparable harm, but the outcome is always the same. The policies that you supported are stopped dead in their tracks, and the agenda of the permanent political class in Washington and its allies on the bench continues, unimpeded by the democratic process. This is a direct assault on the core principles of our republic. When judges stop interpreting the law and think that they can begin writing it, they're seizing power that does not belong to them, and we have a big problem. When their decisions consistently align with the platform of one political party. As they have, it's clear that they aren't really impartial. These judges have become political actors, using the judiciary as a weapon to fight battles they lost in the political arena. Every federal judge, when they take their seat on the bench, swears an oath. Impartiality is the bedrock of our entire legal system. We are taught from a young age that justice is blind, that our judges weigh the facts and the law without prejudice or favor. But this is not happening, which begs the question, how long have our courts been weaponized? I'm going to say it's been a very long time and is just coming out into the open that political beliefs have become more important than the Constitution. Ask yourself, what do these judges who worked hard to get through law school have to gain by risking their entire careers? You've already had a clue at the tactics used by the deep state, and these judges have been compromised through money, blackmail, or coercion of some sort. It's the playbook of the powerful. You don't need a law degree to see the growing partisanship in our courts. the decisions being handed down often look less like reasoned legal opinions and more like press releases from the Democratic National Committee. When a policy aimed at controlling illegal immigration is announced, you can almost set your watch by the lawsuit that will be filed and the partisan judge who will issue an injunction to block it. This predictable pattern isn't a coincidence, it's a strategy. It's the weaponization of the judiciary for political ends, and it corrodes public trust in one of our most vital institutions. People are starting to see the courts not as fair arbiters, but as just another political battlefield. And this is dangerous. A country cannot function when its citizens believe the legal system is rigged. We have a sacred principle in America: nobody is above the law. How many times did the Democrats drum that into our heads over the past few years? That phrase was usually aimed at conservative politicians or wealthy executives, and now the tables have turned. This principle must also apply to the judges themselves. When a judge ignores clear constitutional or statutory authority granted to the executive branch simply because they dislike the president's politics, that judge is placing themselves above the law. They're saying that their personal feelings and political loyalties supersede the will of the people and the very laws they swore an oath to uphold. This erosion of judicial neutrality isn't just a problem for one administration or one political party. It's a threat to the stability and fairness of our entire system of government. When the judiciary destroys its reputation for impartiality, we are truly experiencing an existential threat to the rule of law and democracy. One of the most abused and controversial tools used in this political fight is the nationwide injunction. This is a court order issued by a single federal district judge that blocks the federal government from enforcing a policy anywhere in the country. Think about that. One person in one city can overrule the president and his entire administration on a matter of national importance. This practice has exploded in recent years, used almost exclusively to thwart policies enacted by the Trump administration. It's a legal maneuver that effectively turns a local judge into a national super-legislator, a position that exists nowhere in our Constitution. Liberals better think about the implications of their arguments when the tables are turned and they are in power. They are setting precedent that will similarly be applied to them if we don't stop this madness. Let's look at some specific examples. Remember the travel ban? It's a policy designed to temporarily restrict entry from several countries identified as hotbeds of terrorism, giving our intelligence agencies time to improve vetting procedures. It is squarely within the president's legal authority under federal immigration law. Yet, a judge in Washington state issued a nationwide injunction, halting the policy across the entire country. Then, a modified version was blocked by a judge in Hawaii. The pattern is always the same. The administration issues a policy to secure the country, and a single judge, thousands of miles from Washington, D.C., immediately declares it illegal for everyone. This goes far beyond immigration. Policies on asylum, border wall construction, and enforcing public charge rules were all stopped in their tracks by these universal injunctions. This is a profound abuse of judicial power. The proper role of a court is to resolve a specific dispute between the parties in front of it, not to set nationwide policy from the bench. The Supreme Court itself has repeatedly warned against this practice. The nationwide injunctions create chaos, encourage judge shopping where activist groups hunt for a sympathetic judge, and force the highest court in the land to intervene. And they know they will be overturned, so these rulings are nothing but a desperate attempt to delay the inevitable. Despite these clear warnings from the Supreme Court, Many lower court judges have continued to issue them with reckless abandon. It's an act of open defiance, a statement that they believe their judgment is superior to that of the President, Congress, and even the justices of the Supreme Court. One might think that only seasoned judges would take such a stance, that they know best, but they'd be wrong. Just days ago, a Chinese-born judge, U.S. District Judge Jia M. Cobb, who has been on the federal bench for approximately 6 months, blocking a cornerstone of President Donald Trump's mass deportation campaign. Appointed by President Joe Biden and confirmed in February 2025, Judge Cobb immigrated to the United States and rejected the Trump administration's attempt to allow the Department of Homeland Security to deport undocumented immigrants arrested in the U.S. without court proceedings if they couldn't prove 2 years of continuous residence. Cobb ruled that fast-track deportation violated legal protections and overstepped executive authority. This decision halted the policy, marking a notable setback for the immigration agenda. The executive branch must now appeal, and the deportations will likely be held up until the Supreme Court acts. Sadly, the Supreme Court has demonstrated the same bias by some justices, putting us in a very dangerous position. Then, a couple of days later, another immigrant judge from Guyana, South America, District Judge Sparkle L. Suknanen, blocked the Trump administration from deporting dozens of Guatemalan children who were already loaded onto planes at a Texas airport. This sounds terrible when the controlled media covers it, but the truth is that these unaccompanied children were smuggled into the United States and orphaned due to Biden immigration policies. Judge Suknanen has also only been on the bench for about 6 months. Suknanen's decision halted the flights and required the children to remain in U.S. shelters pending further legal review. This was a significant challenge to President Trump's mass deportation efforts, but he is calmly and skillfully taking these arrows and sending them right back. As lower court judges became more aggressive in blocking national policies, the Supreme Court has been forced to step in again and again. The highest court in the land has found itself in the unusual position of having to act like an emergency cleanup crew, constantly reviewing and reversing these sweeping, politically motivated injunctions. In case after case related to immigration and border security, the Supreme Court sided with the Trump administration, confirming that the president was acting within the authority granted to him by Congress and the Constitution, but the liberals continue to celebrate such abuse of the law. These reversals were a direct rebuke to the activist judges in the lower courts. For example, when judges blocked the administration's public charge rule, which is a long-standing principle that immigrants should be financially self-sufficient, the Supreme Court stepped in and lifted the injunction. When judges tried to halt the use of Defense Department funds for building the border wall, the Supreme Court again intervened, allowing the construction to proceed. Here's the truly astonishing part. The lower courts often don't listen. Even after being slapped down by the Supreme Court, some judges continued their crusade. They would find new, increasingly creative legal theories to issue new injunctions against the same policies. It has become a game of judicial whack-a-mole. The administration wins at the Supreme Court, only to face a new lawsuit and a new injunction from a different judge the next day. This defiance is a stunning breach of their judicial oaths. There is a hierarchy in the American legal system for a reason. Lower courts are supposed to follow the precedent and guidance set by the Supreme Court, and this open rebellion reveals the depth of the political rot our judiciary system. These judges are not making good faith legal errors. They are engaged in a deliberate campaign of resistance, and they must be stopped. They are using their positions to wage a political war, and they seem to believe that they are not bound by the decisions of a higher court if those decisions conflict with their ideological goals. This isn't just judicial overreach, guys, it's judicial anarchy. It undermines the rule of law and creates a system where the law means whatever a particular judge wants it to mean on any given day, regardless of what the Supreme Court says. This brings us to the most important question of all. What do we do and how do we hold these judges accountable? The founders gave federal judges lifetime appointments to protect them from political pressure, not to create a new class of unaccountable tyrants. Between the courts, Congress, and the Federal Reserve, the rule of law has been usurped from every angle. The principle that nobody is above the law must be applied with full force to the judiciary and fast. If a judge can ignore the Constitution, defy the Supreme Court, and impose their political will on the entire country with no consequences, then our system of government is broken. The Constitution does provide several mechanisms for accountability, even for judges. The most immediate form of accountability is rebuke from the Supreme Court, and as we've seen, the High Court has repeatedly reversed these overreaching lower court decisions. However, as we've also seen, a shaming reversal is not always enough to deter a truly committed activist judge. For those who continue to defy higher court rulings, more serious measures are needed to preserve the integrity of the judiciary, and this is where Congress comes in. The Constitution grants Congress significant power over the federal court system. They can pass laws to limit the jurisdiction of lower courts, and a simple legislative fix could strip district courts of the power to issue nationwide injunctions, restricting them to providing relief only to the specific parties involved in a case. This would end the absurdity of a single judge holding national policy hostage. The problem with this is that Congress has also been corrupted, so congressional oversight hearings can shine a spotlight on judicial misconduct, forcing judges to answer for their decisions and exposing their political motivations to the American people. These hearings, however, have no real power to do anything except impeach them, which is the ultimate tool of accountability. The Constitution provides that judges shall hold their offices during good behavior, and impeachment is the process for removing those who fail to meet that standard. And sadly, we are likely going to have to look at months of obstruction if Congress attempts to impeach them. Impeachment is the final backstop to remind every judge that they serve under the Constitution, not above it, and that their power is not absolute, but it will be a struggle to proceed with impeachments if over half of Congress is compromised. At least 73 distinct federal district judges across 25 districts in 10 judicial circuits have issued preliminary orders or injunctions against Trump's policies, and I don't see 73 impeachments happening in this lifetimes. We shouldn't give up hope, though, because waiting in the wings remains the Brunson case, which seeks to remove 388 government officials and 385 members of Congress. While many say this case is dead, and it's true that SCOTUS has refused to hear it, I have word from attorneys in the know that the Brunson case is on the secret docket, waiting for the right time to remove these compromised officials in one fell swoop. Will Congress take the first and most critical step by ending the practice of nationwide injunctions by statute? That remains to be seen, but if they don't, they risk their own political survival via a favorable ruling on the Brunson case. When any branch oversteps its bounds, it is the duty of the others and of the people to push back and restore the constitutional balance. It's time to demand a judiciary that serves the American people and the rule of law, not a dark partisan agenda dictated by an unelected cabal of wealthy egotists.